Hello everyone, this is Beastly Eel, and today is Tuesday, which means it's an anime character spotlight video, and today's video is going to be about Kurapika, who is from Hunter x Hunter. In this show, there is what's called hunters, that they have to pass this exam, and then once the exam is passed, they then have to go through another exam, sort of, where they learn to use their power, what is called Nen. Now, that it being said, this particular person is Kurapika, who is the last survivor of the Kurta clan. The Kurta clan were very significant in the storyline because they were a group of people whose, when frustrated or angry, their eyes would turn scarlet. And because of that, there were people out there who wanted to kill him just for their eyes. So we first meet him when we meet Gon, when they're on the ship to get to the hunter's exam, and they are we kind of see him as a snob in the very beginning. He's just wanting to be a hunter just to hunt down the people who killed his people. But we really don't know that's the reason yet until later on, but I digress. So he teams up with Gon and Leorio, and in fact it almost gets to a point in the very beginning while they're still on the boat where Leorio and Kurapika are going to fight. But Gon stops it from happening, and they then become friends, and they decide to work together in the hunter's exam. Now, during the hunter's exam, um, they had to go through many trials just to get there. So they had to hunt down several of the people, actually mythical creatures, or magical beasts is what they're called. But anyway, once that was finished, they were sent to the very beginning of the first exam, and they were given each a number. Um, They then were, I believe Kurapika was 403, I believe, or 404. Not the point of the story. So anyway, the first stage of the hunter's exam was the race. Now, I call it a race, but it really wasn't. They basically just had to run straight until they got to the end. Now, during the very beginning part, when they were in the tunnel, not much was happening. Um, Kurapika Kurapika definitely was having a little bit of difficulty, but not nearly as bad. It was when they get to the Misty Wastelands is where things got a little bit heavy. And this is where he actually met Hisaga for the first time and he felt his malice and was terrified of him and just tried to get out of there. So what he did was he just tried to leave. So he passes the first phase of the exam because he was able to make it to the end. Now, in the second phase, it was two gourmet hunters who were trying to get them to kill a boar and make the best pork dish that they've ever had. Well, nobody passed the pork exam, which is hilarious in itself. So instead, what they had to do was they had to actually get a spider eagle egg. Now, a spider eagle egg has nests that are in caverns where you have to drop down, jump on their wire, fall down, grab the egg, and if you timed it correctly, the air would go up and you'd shoot back up to the top. Now, this was not an easy thing and you had to time it out perfectly. Well, without Gon's help, he would not have passed this part of the exam, mostly due to the fact of Gon's heightened senses. But he trusted him and dropped down, grabbed it, and came back up. So that moves on to the third phase. So in the third phase was what was called the tower. Now in this, they had to find their way to get down to the bottom of the tower. So there were different passages, and of course, Kurapika, Gon, Leorio, Killua, and oh my gosh, what was the other? Trope. Nope. Can't think of the other guy's name. Oh, Tampa. Sorry, Tampa. Tampa, who is basically what's called the rookie breaker, and he tries to just break all the rookies so they lose. But anyway, let's move on. So their first act was they had to fight these 5 prisoners, and the longer it took, the less time they had to get down below. So they had to go on one-on-one fights. And the first match was with Tampa. He gave up, going won the second match, and then Kurapika was the third match. And it was against a guy named Majinti, who was pretending to be part of the Phantom Troop, which made Kurapika lose it. And he actually smashed his face in, beat him up, and actually won the fight. So eventually they had to keep going through, and they made it through. And when they got to the final part, they made it through the slide and passed the third phase of the exam. Now, the fourth phase of the exam was much harder than all the others. This was a 7-day manhunt, and they were taken to Sevi Island. Now, during this, Kurapika and everyone else were separated, and your goal was you had a hunt, you had a prey. So everyone pulled out a number, and that number was the hunter you had to hunt. Now, you needed 6 points to pass. Your own badge counted as 3 points. Your opponent, the one that you pulled out, is worth 3 points, and anybody else's is worth one. So you could go after as many as you wanted as long as you got it. Well, Grepka and Leorio and Gon teamed up eventually and got all their badges, and they were able to escape. But it was not easy since they got stuck inside a cave full of snakes that the owner was already dead and commanded the snakes to protect him. So anyway, they were able to survive and get out. Not easily, by the way. They had to use a knockout gas and they were able to escape. With Gon's help, Kurapika and Leorio and Gon made it to the final stage of the exam. Now, the final stage of the exam had to do with a tournament with an end, where the winner of the match will be removed from the list and receive their own hunter's license, and the loser will be given more chances. Now, the person had to give up. Now, this is very significant. But in Kurapika's case, he was facing against Hisako. Now, this guy is scarier than anything, and what happened was he had the upper hand, and Kurapika was basically defeated. But he whispered something in his ear that we later find out was, if you want to know about the Phantom Troop, come see me later. And he actually gave up. Hisako gave up the fight, and Kurapika won and got his hunter exam. So in the Zoltik family arc, so after they get their exam, Killua leaves, and Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika decide that they're going to go after um, Killua, who they think is captured by his family. So he gets to what's called the testing gate, and none of them are able to open it. So him, Gon, and Leorio all train to try to open up the door. After 20 days, they're able to enter and get inside, and now they're at a female attendant, one of the butlers, apprentice of butler, Canary, who doesn't let them go in. So during this time, um, the mother of Killua and Calico, who is one of her sons, knocks Canary unconscious and tells them to leave. And she leads, so once Canary regains consciousness and said she was going to send them to the attendance room. While in the service room, they were forced into playing a guessing game with some butlers of the family. It was a coin game. Now, during this, Gon was the only one to actually pass, and they eventually get Killua and meet and leave. So they decide that they're going to meet up in New York, New City on September 1st, and they split up from there. Now, during this time, um, in the Heavens Arena arc, there's not much going on with Kurapika, but what he does is he actually joins an agency and learns how to deal with his Nen. Now, during this time, Nen is your spiritual energy in this universe. It gives you strength, and depending on your type of personality, you get a specific type of Hatso. There are different types. There's enhancers, which literally enhances. We have conjurers, emitters, manipulators, and emitters, I believe. I think that's all of them. Oh, and there's also specialists. So anyway, he's learning to use his Nen. So during this time, he's found out what he was, and he's actually a conjurer. But what he finds out after is when he uses his scarlet eyes, he actually turns into a specialist. Now, this particular specialist ability, he actually puts all of his all parts of Hatsao to 100, meaning he can use all 5 types of Nen to their full capacity, 100%, which is normally impossible, but that's what makes him a specialist. So we now move on to York New City. Now the reason why Kurapika decides to join a group of not hunters, a bodyguard job, is because he's looking to find the Scarlet Eyes so he can take out and remove all of them from the market and let them rest. So during this time, he built his Nen to create conjuring Nen chains. Now, these Nen chains are very powerful, and he has many different kinds, but we'll get to that a little later. So there's a chain he has called the Downsing chain, which actually is able to tell when somebody's lying. And he's used this multiple times in this and found out that when he got to his new boss's place, he found that he was being tested, and in actuality, that they weren't even considered to be hired yet until they passed their test, and turns out they did by realizing who the two conspirators were. So anyway, they now are hired to escort the boss, who is a young lady, to an auction, who wants a lot of different things, and one of them being Scarlet Eyes, which is why he's willing to take it. So during this time, we now have to deal with the Phantom Troop, which is where Kurapika really shines in this arc, because his Nen ability is more powerful when he's against the Phantom Troop, because he's put restrictions on it that he can only use his certain chains against the Phantom Troop, which because of this, if he because he uses restrictions, it actually makes his Nen stronger. But anyway, he has many different attacks like Chain Jail, which is where he tries to take out the um, Uvgun, which is a very powerful enhancer, and eventually kills him. And during this time, he actually tries to fight others as well and tries to remove the rest of the Phantom Troop. But during this time, he actually has a very difficult time and actually is in a hostage situation with Gon and Killua. And so during this time, he now has to negotiate and put all of them into safety. And he actually removes the Nen of their boss permanently, the head of the spiders, and kills 2 of their troops. So he kills the Enhancer and the Future Bullet Woman. And how he does it with her is what's called Judgment Chain. And Judgment Chain, if they don't follow the rules, they will die, and they have to agree to it. So, in the end, he then leaves the group after everything is settled. This the Phantom Troop split up, and Kurapika, Kurapika, sorry, decides to go and continue looking for his the Scarlet Eyes, and that's the end. Now, during Greed Island, Kurapika is explained to by Killua that there's the possibility that Krulo, who was the head of the Phantom Troop, could actually gain his powers back, and he wasn't all that surprised by it because he knew that was a possibility, but realistically, he wasn't worried about it. And then in the final arc of the show, the 13 Hunter Chairman election arc, we don't actually see him until the very end, where we find out he's found several pairs of Scarlet Eyes, and are now putting them to rest in putting them to rest in a church for a funeral for his murdered comrades, and that's the end of the series. After the Phantom Troop We really don't see much of Kurapika at all. Um, so let's talk about his abilities. So his abilities are his chains, but we're going to talk a little bit about his equipment first, right? Yep. No, I guess not. I was right. So we're going to talk about his equipment first. So his equipment consists of Bulkins, which are two-wheeled, like metal wood swords, and they're linked together by a thread. He's got knives, shuriken, and even a switchblade and a handgun. His powers and abilities, he he's able to use Nen, which we've already talked about, with his Scarlet Eyes from the Kurta clan. He can actually increase his Nen while changing his Nen typing, which makes him a specialist. Then we have he has advanced hearing. He's able to sense certain things going on around him with his perception. He has enhanced strength, enhanced speed and reflexes, enhanced ability, enhanced endurance, genius level intellect. He's a master strategist. He's proficient in hand-to-hand combat. He's a master weapons specialist. He's bilingual. And then let's talk about his Nen. Now, like I said, Nen has many different forms, and there are limitations and everything else. Well, there are different types of Nen, specifically Hatso is the type of Nen you use. So there's emitters, manipulators, enhancers, transmuters, conjurers, and specialists. Got them all now. So Kurapika by himself is a conjurer, but when his eyes turn scarlet, he becomes a specialist, where he's able to use all of his types of Nen all at once at 100%, which is not something you're able to do normally. You're only normally able to do 100% if you're lucky on the Nen that you're personality is perfect for, and then 80% for the two next to it, and 60 for the two after that, and 40 if it's on the other side of the hexagon. So he has many different types of Nen abilities. So one of them is called Emperor Time, which gives him the ability to increase his Nen significantly for a short amount of time, but because of this could actually shorten his life. A lot of his abilities are conjured basis. So, like the dowsing chain is a ball and chain that he uses to actually figure out what's going on in people, but it also has the ability for defensive and offensive purposes as well because it's a ball and chain. We also have the chain jail, which is his chains wrapping around their opponent and squeezing them very much. This is a conjuring type ability. Then we have what's called the holy chain, which is a chain with a cross at the end, which actually um, increases his healing abilities. So this is a combination type. So this is an enhanced and a conjuring ability combined, and he can heal from serious injuries in seconds. Then we have the judgment chain, which is where he shoots like a knife dagger into somebody's heart and causes them or makes them do what he's asking, and if they remove, they die. Or if they fail, they die. So this is a three-type ability. This is a conjuring, emission, and manipulation type Nen. Very difficult to use. But because of his scarlet eyes, they're not that hard. His next one is he has the steel chains, which we already know about, and they're from his conjuring ability. Many different things overall, but that's definitely his big thing. He's an expert fighter in all, and he's definitely one of my favorite characters in the game. I mean, in the game, in the series. I was just disappointed that he didn't get more airtime towards the end because I thought he was a great character. But I understand because he would have been significantly weaker because he wouldn't be fighting the Phantom Troop. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with me? Is there an anime character you want me to talk about? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you like the content you see, please like and subscribe below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a good night.